Hi everyone, welcome back into the channel. My name is Travis and I am surviving an avoidant discard. So last night I had an opportunity to finally leave my hypnotherapist a Google review, and I realized I wanted to do a video that explained all of the different modalities and methods of support and therapy and help that are available out there or that I used throughout this avoidant discard recovery, and my thoughts on them and how effective I thought they were, etc. So right off the bat, I think when something like this happens in our life, we're going to go to friends and family first. In my case, I am estranged from my family. My father's passed away and I just don't have that relationship with the rest of my family. So for me, it was my best friend that I went to. And an interesting thing came up through this process. I learned that my best friend is also a dismissive avoidant. I would go to him, I'd be very emotional about what was going on, and he just wouldn't understand. Very, very similar to my ex, who wouldn't be emotionally available for anything. The main takeaway from this point that I learned was whenever you're going to friends or family, it's good to manage your expectations or really understand and maybe even ask people before you go to them, hey, do you have the bandwidth or the emotional capacity to listen to what I'm going through and just hold space for me and not judge, not fix, not deflect or distract, try to help me that way. Just listen, because it can almost be a little bit more damaging when you're going to friends and family, people that you love, for support, and you wind up feeling like you're not heard, you're not understood, you're not seen. Whenever I couldn't go to my friend or friends, early in the morning, 2 in the morning, when I'm wide awake and I'm ruminating and my head's spinning, I would call a support or crisis line. Hopefully you have a local one in your community. Here it's called Access 24/7. Initially, I found this honestly like really triggering and annoying, because if you've ever, for example, if you ever called tech support for your internet or your cell phone and whatnot, and you can tell that they're working you down a script and you're kind of like, yeah, like you're wanting to get to the point of the script where they can actually like hear you out. So I found that to be kind of triggering. I don't know if this is the case for other support lines, but here our support line is an actual physical location. It's sort of like a drop-in crisis counseling center where you can go in and actually speak with a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or a therapist, whoever they happen to have on staff. And so I was able to do that a couple of times, and that way they had a file on me, like they were taking notes and whatnot. And then if I had to call into the crisis line at a later date, it made it a lot easier, because they could just put me on hold and they could quickly bring themselves up to speed, and then I didn't have to go through the entire story all over again with someone brand new on the phone. Up from that, I guess, would be like self-help, reading books. Reading books was good. If you haven't read Attached yet, I would recommend that. That's kind of the Bible for attachment theory. Even just the act of reading. I'll actually throw journaling in here too. Reading books and journaling, both of those two, at the very, very least, are going to stop you from ruminating endlessly. The books, you're going to be learning something. It's going to take your mind off of kind of your situation a little bit. Journaling is a great way. Journaling was always hard for me. Even, I journal on the phone. Some people insist you have to handwrite. I don't know. I think it's good to get it out no matter what. If you can journal out your feelings, do some rage journaling, just write and write and write. That's very helpful too. Obviously, we're here on YouTube watching videos, so that would be another form of self-help. I would say be very, very careful about what you're watching on YouTube and how much you're watching YouTube. Right off the bat, I would say stay away from the XBAC coaches. I get it if you did it. I did it too. I watched them. I don't think there's any value in it. They seem to be a little bit predatory. Any of these videos that claim to, oh, you'll have your ex crawling back to you, how to make your ex do this, how to make your ex feel this. At the end of the day, no one can make your ex feel or say or do anything. I mean, if I had that power, I'd be a billionaire and I would have made my ex do many things, you know, or feel many things. But I didn't have that power in the relationship, so I certainly don't have that power out of the relationship. Um, Again, I watched them. You can watch them. Just try not to get hung up and go down that rabbit hole. I'm not sure how it is for the women out there, but for the guys, you know, like I'd watch a video and, you know, instantly there'd be somebody saying, listen, bro. And I knew right away that was not going to be a solid, evidence-based video full of useful and helpful information for me. So up from that would have been group therapy. If you have group therapy in your area, I would recommend it. It's a really good step for therapy, particularly for men. There aren't a lot of men-specific supports out there. Again, I hate to generalize, but women generally are more social. They have a larger social circle. It's more socially acceptable for women to share how they're feeling emotionally. For men, not so much. If you've ever gone to your best friend, you know, and you're emotional about something and you get the typical, well, get over it. There's plenty of fish in the sea. You'll find somebody else, like this kind of thing. It can get a little bit invalidating. Group therapy is a little different. Most of them are structured where, I mean, the group therapy that I went to, you weren't allowed to give any advice. You couldn't interrupt anybody, that kind of thing. And quite often, you know, there'd be 30 guys in there every single week. And quite often there would be, you know, 4 or 5 guys, new people, who would be genuinely surprised that there were that many people who were going through something similar to what they were going through. They thought that they were the only one. And the other good thing about group therapy is you don't actually have to say anything in most of them. You know, you can gain a lot of insight and perspective on your situation by listening to what other people are going through or have gone through and how they're dealing with it. I would say you can leave group feeling really, really good. You can also, and I've had this experience, you can leave group feeling really bad. One way in particular, I know when I was doing hypnotherapy, she didn't want me to go to group through the course of the hypnotherapy because we were trying to undo these automatic negative thoughts. That's what Alicia calls them at the Relove Project, these ants. We're trying to undo these. And she didn't want me around anything negative. And one of the things I found with group is that after a while, it got to be a little bit repetitive, where you could sort of parse out the people that were there who were, they were at group, but they were also in therapy and they were also reading books, versus the people who were just at group therapy for a social outing. Like there were people that were there for 10 years, like up to 10 years and everywhere in between. And you kind of got the impression like, okay, well, what, like, I don't want to be in group therapy for the rest of my life. I don't want to be in therapy for the rest of my life. Like, what are you doing to heal yourself and move forward? And it was the difference between transparency and vulnerability. Like a lot of people were just sharing information about what they had done that week, versus, hey, this is how I was feeling this week. These were the mistakes I made. This is what I think this means about me, and this is how I'm trying to improve myself, you know, that kind of thing. So I got sort of a little bit disenfranchised with group therapy after, I mean, I was there about a year. And so I kind of moved out of group therapy. Almost at the same time, I started group therapy maybe a month or so later. Actually, at the same facility, I found an individual therapist, like a one-on-one therapy type thing. And again, that has its place. I have a really great therapist. We have a really good rapport. But it got to the point where it just felt like we were intellectualizing the problem. You know, everybody knew what the problem was, but it never really felt like we were doing work. It felt like, honestly, like one-on-one group. Like it didn't really feel any different than group therapy. What really changed things for me is when I hit the 6-month mark after the breakup, which is significant. Even if it's not in your conscious mind, it's sort of like, it pops in your head that, oh my God, it's been 6 months. And I remember I had a trip down to Calgary, and it's just a disastrous trip. And I ended up emotionally basically back at day one after the breakup. And I remember driving home, and I was on the phone with my best friend, and he was just mystified, and he couldn't understand how, you've been in all of this group therapy and talk therapy and read all these books and whatnot. How could you possibly be feeling like this again? And we were talking about options, and I remember hypnotherapy had come up, and I said, no, I'm gonna try this. And as soon as I got home, I booked a hypnotherapy consultation, and I think it was the following Monday that I had my very first hypnotherapy session. Between hypnotherapy and Psych K coaching, those two methods of support or therapy or healing I found to be the most effective and the most helpful. They're the most expensive option, but they're a lot more short term, than therapy. I mean, I don't know what therapists cost in your area. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention is BetterHelp, which is online therapy. There were times in talk therapy where my talk therapist wasn't available after hours or anything like that, where the BetterHelp therapist, you could text almost any time, and if they were awake or kind of in your time zone, that they would text you back, depending on the plan that you got. So that might be something that you might want to look into is BetterHelp. It's online therapy. But I found overall the hypnotherapy and the Psych K coaching. Psych K was with Alicia at the Reloved Project. You can find the Reloved Project here on YouTube. Those two methods of therapy were the best for me. With hypnotherapy, I noticed immediate changes. We're going on about 6 or 7 weeks ago that I started my hypnotherapy, and I finished it now. I did 6 sessions. 6 sessions was all it took. And every single night I have slept through a solid 8 hours for 6 straight weeks now, 6 or 7 weeks. That, for me, that in and of itself was worth the cost of the hypnotherapy. Some of the other things that I've noticed, any sort of self-soothing behavior, tapping my foot, and anything like that has really, really reduced. The ruminating thoughts have virtually gone away. Some odd things that I've noticed. Today, for example, I drove all over the place to various appointments for my job, and I didn't turn the radio on at all, where ordinarily that was just automatic. When I got in the car, I would turn the radio on, and I didn't realize that was a self-soothing thing. It was a distraction. Same thing here at home, where I would normally turn the TV on. It's on about half the amount of time that it was before. So these were all things that I noticed after doing Psych K and hypnotherapy. So I'd like to think that if I could go back, I would do the hypnotherapy and the Psych K earlier on, but as my hypnotherapist was fond of saying, everything in its time, everything happens at the right time that it's supposed to happen, and when you're ready for it. So I feel like I had to go through all of those other levels of therapy, and I had to have that kind of meltdown where I kind of went back to square one, so that I would understand, this isn't working, you need to try something else. And not that I was desperate, but I was definitely highly motivated at that point to try hypnotherapy and try Psych K. And when you go to do those two types of things, you do have to approach it with a really open mind, and then that way you'll get the most out of it. So those are the levels of therapy, help, support, etc. that I used to get through this avoidant discard, and my thoughts on them for whatever that's worth. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you have a lot of support, And I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.